But I feel that that's a shame, because now you can never truly be open within your relationship, because you never truly trust your wife, because at the end of the day, she's a woman and women do X, Y, Z. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that's where, again, Islam has to be the main program here. Because Islam teaches us that the dunya is temporary, right? That we shouldn't be submitting to anything or anyone in this dunya, only to the Creator, and that we should be giving most of our time to the Creator. We should have taqwa. What is taqwa? It's remembrance of Allah, right? If you don't have taqwa, what do you have? You have remembrance of something else. And a lot of times people get into these relationships, and it's not love, it's an obsession that they have, because they can only think about this other person. Now Allah said very clearly in the Quran that He made us to where we have passion between each other. Listen, passion and love are very closely linked. You know, like, you start making passion with someone, feelings develop over time. So if that's not love, then what is? You know, so people might say, oh, well, this is love. This is love. Listen, no one knows what love is actually. That's crazy, because y'all know how, like, impactful it was.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're watching this, it was such a strong dream that I woke up and then I was talking to my dad and I was crying because of how strong the dream was, how impactful the dream was. And then I ended up driving to the mosque. It was like 5:40 something to do Fajr at the mosque. And I was crying the entire way to the mosque. And subhanAllah, I think it's crazy that.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is there's a clash, right? There's a clash in worldviews when it comes to the pro-red pill Muslim brothers and the anti-red pill Muslim brothers. And the worldview that's shared by the red pill brothers is that Muslim women, a lot of Muslim women are like modern women. They are no different. They may have certain elements that set them apart from modern Western women, but in general, they are women like other women. So that already means that they behave in a certain way. And they are infected by and affected by the society that has created modern women. So ideals of feminism and independence and strong mush arafe, that is something that Muslim women are part of. They are not immune to those influences, right? So pro-red pill brothers feel that many of the ideas in red pill make sense even when you're looking at Muslim women, right? Because Muslim women are like other women. Whereas what I'm seeing from the anti-red pill brothers is that their idea of Muslim women is that Muslim women are not like modern women, that they are better than modern women, that they're even better than the female nature that is spoken about in red pill. Muslim women are above that. Muslim women have humility. They fear Allah. They follow the Quran and the Sunnah. They're obedient. They're not infected by any of those ideas happening out in society. So when I hear the anti-red pill Muslim brothers talking, they're always speaking in terms of ideals. And they're always talking in terms of the deen says this, the deen says that, which is great to understand what Islam says. But if the reality on the ground is that people are not following Islam, then we have a disconnect. There's a mismatch, right? Because you're trying to bring a purely Islamic solution to people that are not behaving in an Islamic way. So it's really interesting to kind of see these two worldviews clashing, because the one is saying, no, the deen says this, the Prophet ﷺ did that, and the wives of the Prophet ﷺ did this up here. And the red pill guy is like saying, yeah, but we're not them. and these sisters are not them. Okay, this is what's actually happening on the ground. So, subhanallah, I don't think the argument is going away anytime soon. I think people's own experiences of, interactions with women, their own marriages, whether they've succeeded or failed, etc., they impact how they come into this space. But I think a lot of young men, young Muslim men, are definitely reclaiming their right to masculinity. And I think that is definitely as a result of Red Pill and the Manosphere. Even
Mhm.
though Muslims don't need to be taught how to be men, mashallah, our men are the most masculine men, alhamdulillah. But again, Islam is not the only thing that makes us. We take ideas from outside all the time. We're being impacted by our society. So I think that the Manosphere has given a lot of young Muslim men permission to own their masculinity and to start to actually feel proud that I am a Muslim man and I'm not going to apologize for that, nor am I going to apologize for the station that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me, or even the
Mhm.
rights that Allah gave me. I'm not going to apologize for
Mhm.
that because y'all don't like it. So that's my
Yeah.
analysis. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Hold up.
Mashallah.
Pause for a second. Repeat what you said about the whole masculinity thing. You said
Okay.
something that like, oh, I think you said Muslim men like they're masculine and repeat it. I just want to make sure that I got it correct what you said.
Okay, inshallah. All right, so Bismillah. I think we can agree that when it comes to traditional masculine and feminine roles, the
Mhm.
deen is very clear, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Not only is it clear in the way that our roles are demarcated, but it's clear because of the role models that we have. Now,
Mhm.
the amazing thing about masculinity in the deen is that it's not this one dimensional caricature of the stoic man who, like is never shaken and is not emotional, he's hard, he's tough. That's not the example. And we know this because of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes us, how He encourages us to have humility, to submit to Him, to submit to authority, to hold ourselves to account, all of these things that make us have good character, right? Men are told to do that too. So in Islam, masculinity is a lot more holistic, and I would say it is a lot more, there's a wider range that you have access to as a masculine man in Islam, right? Much wider than in most traditional cultures. Because in traditionally, a man is hard, he's the stiff upper lip, he's a stoic, he don't cry for nobody, he don't take nothing from no one, that whole thing, which is not the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and we know that. And we've seen from the Sahaba, you had the really tough ones and you had the soft ones, you had the wealthy ones and you had the fuqara, you had the ones who were fierce in battle, you had the ones who were poets. So as a man, as a Muslim man, you've got so many different ways of being a man on deen. It's not just one size fits all. Whereas out there, there is a kind of a stereotype of what a manly man is, right? So what I'm saying is that in the deen gives us the blueprint for masculinity and for femininity and how much space there is within that for you to be yourself. And I think that the manosphere has given a lot of younger Muslim men confidence to be proud of being men again and to reclaim their masculinity and their role as men within the deen, and the rights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, where they're like, I'm not going to apologize for being a man. I'm not going to feel ashamed of being a man. And I'm not going to feel ashamed of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me as a result of the fact that I'm a man. So for me, the interesting journey will be when our young men now start to understand the holistic nature of being a man. Yes, you have rights. Yes, you have a station. Yes, Allah has given you that degree over women, right? But there's a responsibility as well. So what does it mean to be a man, to be responsible, to be committed, to be hardworking, right? To be a leader? That will be a really interesting conversation when we're starting to see young men saying, I'm going to level up so that I
Mhm.
can embody this manhood that I've been given and be the best version of that for myself. The women are going to love it. They don't know it
Mhm.
yet, but trust me when I say the sisters who are out there saying the brothers ain't this, the brothers ain't that, a lot of them a lot of them have seen examples of men not being men, in the sense of not taking responsibility, not standing up and taking care of things, because that is in essence what, I don't want to speak for all women, yeah, because that's just a, it's you're on a pathway that you can't you can't do anything about. But in essence, what does a man bring to the table? He provides, yes, but more importantly, he protects. And it is that strength, and it is that courage, and it is that commitment and steadiness, right, that women crave from their man, right? Whether it's being assertive or whether it's staying silent, when she's going off and not getting drawn into arguments, not kind of going off on an emotional rant. We value that rock that should be the man, right? And I think a lot of women, a lot of sisters maybe grew up not seeing that modeled. Maybe their father wasn't that. Maybe their uncles weren't that. Maybe their brothers were spoiled and, kind of everybody pandered to them. Maybe their father didn't have any self-control, whatever. So they don't know what a strong man looks like and don't know how to be themselves around a strong man. But inshallah, the more young men level up their deen, their personal, their physical, their financial, their intellectual, mashallah, that's going to be the sought after guy. That's going to be the one that sisters are like, you know what, even if he wants me to cook and clean, I'm gonna cook and clean for him because I know that he will have my back. He's going to be the rock that my family needs, and I want to build with somebody like that. Inshallah, wallahu alam.
Allah.
Jazakallah.
There's a Jazakallah, there's a lot to unpack. I've been saying this since the very first episode that I believe that red pill is level 2 and Islam is level 3. And people take that out of context sometimes, but there's no denying from a personal standpoint, anecdotal experience from my life, that I've tremendously benefited from red pill. I grew up in a world full of lies in this gynocentric society, and the first thing I see that is even half truth is red pill. So I go into it because I didn't really have the deen. Now, the reason I can say I left red pill today is because I've gone through it and I learned and acquired what I got. And now I come into being a proper Muslim man, and
Inshallah.
I'm like red pill aware in a way. I don't know if I could say the same if I did it the other way around. Could I be a good Muslim man? Of course. But would I be aware of the things that I learned? No. And it really did make a difference in my life. There's a lot of things that we could talk about, such as the whole theory of a beta male provider in the manosphere, which I don't agree with whatsoever to be Islamic. The thing with the Ghira and the youth men and all this. But that's my 2 cents. Anha, what do you have to say?
I ain't gotta say nothing. I think it's true though. I think it's true that Islam is level 3 and red pill is level 2. That's the most that I'll say right
I
now.
like that. That's actually really that's really profound. Actually, I hadn't ever thought of it like that. And it's almost like, if I think for, well, I was about to say that if you grew up in an Islamic context, red pill might not be necessary. And I think if you grew up away from modern influences, you could argue that, like, red pills, it's superfluous, right? Because like, we already have the roles, we already have the characteristics. Society is helping us to maintain those roles. Like, red pill is like, oh, what are you guys talking about? Oh, that stuff, yeah, we knew that from time. But I think that the world we live in today is much, much more integrated than that. And I think almost everywhere you go, modern society has impacted our understandings of masculine and feminine, what they even are, how they should be interacting, the place of that in a relationship, power dynamics, roles in a relationship. All of that has definitely been heavily influenced by modern society. So even if it's a Muslim country, you will definitely find some of the same issues as what, red pill kind of, red pill highlighted in modern Western society, because that culture is global and it's kind of to be found everywhere. Unless you go to the countryside somewhere and you see village people, then maybe they are not aware and don't see it as necessary at all.
I think that the red pill and Islam both have one thing right, which is just straying away from this pseudo apotheosis of women. that they're just virtuous and perfect and there's nothing wrong with them. And red pill,
Yeah.
in a way, through empiricism, through anecdotal, I guess, it's essentially evolutionary psychology in a nutshell. And it's people that connect to an audience, a younger audience, and it teaches them, it conveys these teachings and findings, and it shows men, it red pills them to the reality of women. Islam, in a way, tells us that men and women both are not perfect, and
Mm.
we're flawed, we're fallible, we have our imperfections. And I think that personally, going through red pill, which is level 2, really helped me admire and appreciate and not take Islam for granted.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. And peep
Yeah, I
this.
agree. Mm.
Peep this, all right?
So, mm. So what
Before
are your
before any of you
thoughts?
go, I was
Sorry,
I
I
was
know.
gonna throw
Sorry.
something in. You good, you good, you good.
No, no, no,
Just
no. Please go ahead.
yeah, just peep this, all right? Islam is all that we should need. And keyword should,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But we live in a time, like you said, where everything is very integrated. Times have changed. We live in the dunya. It's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means. So Islam should be like the main program here, and Red Pill should be like an add-on because I don't know where it was said. I know Rami has said this multiple times. I know Faya has said this multiple times. But when you live on a land, you appeal to the rules, the laws of that land, right? So you can function, you can live, you can survive on that land, but you have Islam, like you have your guidelines in Islam. So right now, this red pill stuff, it's like an add-on to the integration that has occurred nowadays. But if we
Hmm.
were to remove this integration, like let's say we had people living in just a place where it's basically like a Muslim country. And when I say Muslim, I'm talking about like a legit Muslim country, not like the stuff that you see nowadays. I'm talking about like a legit Muslim country. If you had somewhere where it's like Islam was the main thing, then there'd be no need for the add-on. But the fact is, we live in that time where it's integrated. Like you sister,
Mm.
you live in the UK, right?
Mm.
I don't gotta say nothing. There's beautiful parts in the UK with the Ummah, the Muslim Ummah, but then you got the secular parts of the UK, and then the same with the West. The West is like a step below UK in terms of that because we don't really have that like that Muslim Ummah over here.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's
Mm.
why I say like this add-on is actually something very beneficial. But then here's where the problem lies: is that a lot of the Muslim brothers, especially younger Muslim brothers, because they live in this area, because they live in the areas where we are so integrated now into the culture, they start taking the red pill to be the main program and Islam to be the add-on, and that's where the big problem
Hmm.
Mm.
occurs.
Yeah, yeah. I wanna
Mm.
jump in here, inshallah. Bismillah. I think I want to add something to the discussion that I think has not been mentioned yet, which is that this practically an ideology is a kufr ideology, and it has its benefits 100%. Yeah, I've benefited from it as well. It has its benefits, but it's a kufr ideology that's based in kufr. It's based in liberalism, and that's the main issue with it, which is why I try and just completely stay away from praising it or linking it to Islam in any way. I know it has its
Mm.
upsides, and I'll get to that inshallah. But the reason I want to stray away from it is because what is masculinity? Like, what is the goal? When you look at red pill, the goal is always to have women. Why is that the goal? The goal is already messed up. If I would say majority of the red pill content out there is about getting women. It's about
I
how
would
to be.
disagree. I would disagree
I
with
think
you.
it used to
I
be
would
about getting
disagree
women,
respectfully.
but I think it's more
Oh,
self-improvement.
There is self improvement.
there's a spectrum. There's a
Hmm.
spectrum, right? That we
Yeah.
can agree that there's a spectrum. You can
But
say, from
let's hear
one end
Rami's
to the
thought.
other.
Yeah.
Carry on,
So
Rami. Do you want to
yeah,
finish, please? Yeah.
when it comes to certain ideologies like liberalism that don't have like a full on like book like the Quran you can go to and see the guidelines of it, is always going to be a spectrum. So it's
Yeah.
basically whatever is in the current time, that you'll see what it's propagating at that time. Maybe red pill in 100 years, if it's around, is going to be completely different, right? Things evolve. That's why there's different waves, like feminism, for example. There's no guiding boundaries for it, like we have with Islam, alhamdulillah.
Hmm.
Most of the time, when it comes to red pill, it is, and I stand firm on this, it is about basically getting women. And that's why a lot of the branches of Red Pill, I don't want to call them branches, but like things like Black Pill and MGTOW, it also has to do a lot with women. And it's unfortunate, but when you have an ideology that's rooted in something like, desires, like desire of women, then this is just natural. This is what's going to happen. Now, there are beautiful aspects, like I mentioned, like reclaiming your masculinity, being a man, right? But a lot of the time, that's presented in it's with its polar opposite of with women, right? It's not always presented just in a general sense, like Islam would bring it in. And there are aspects of self-improvement, which is beautiful. At the beginning of, I'd say the beginning of the man's journey with Red Pill, it's focus on yourself, get your goals, work out, get fit, get your money up, this, that, the other. And then it starts to work its way into, okay, when it comes to women, this is how you get women, this is how you spit game at them, and this, that, the other. It always gets to that. Now, there can be benefits to that. There can be. But from a non-Muslim perspective, or from an Islamic perspective, it's coming from non-Muslims, and it's best to avoid it. Now, what I think the solution is that the Ummah needs to straighten out. Every single man out there needs to study what it means to be a man from an Islamic perspective. That is fard on you. And if no one's doing it, it's fard on the entire Ummah. And if we are not teaching something about Islam that people need to know, we're all sinful. Which means all of us need to get up, we need to go do our work, we need to teach people Islamically, from an Islamic perspective. What does it mean to be a man? That way we don't, like, red pill would become obsolete. And if you think about it, it's really rather sad that we have to talk about it so much just to get men's testosterone levels up again. We should be able to talk about that from an Islamic perspective and have men feel masculine again.
Yeah, and sister, before you go, just to clarify Rami's point when he's talking about the women, it's more so that Red Pill is rooted with the I don't know how to say this word, but a women is at the root of Red Pill.
It's like female centric.
Yeah, it's female centric in the terms of it always has something to do with a woman. Like,
thank you.
You're waking up, but you're waking up from what? Oh, maybe you had a marriage where a woman was cheating on you, or something was happening. You're waking up because you don't get women. You want to get women. You're waking up because you're not. It's always rooted with the women.
Yeah.
Where Islam is different. That's why I feel like Rami's coming
and
from.
there's no morality. That's also what Rami was saying. There's no moral compass. So it's all in a way from hedonism. Now, there are benefits from it. We're not going to deny that. But essentially what Rami is saying is, if you follow the Islamic model of masculinity, Prophet ﷺ saying that go for deen first when you're looking for a spouse, then 99% of these, thoughts on YouTube that people are complaining about, no one would even go for them. I hate to say it, but that's the reality. Yeah. And we wouldn't even need Red Pill. But, I still want to hear what Sister Naima has to say.
Lots of food for thought there. Jazakallah khairan, Rami and Anghel. Definitely we can say that the Manosphere is a response, right? You could say it's a response to the increasingly gynocentric society, or the sidelining of men and men's voices, right? The shutting down of men's spaces, okay, and their right to be who they are and speak as they speak. And I think the Manosphere came out of that as a way of reclaiming male spaces. Similarly, with Red Pill, from where I'm standing, is a direct. It's a pushback against feminism, right? Because if you went back to the 1950s, for example, when you still had the traditional family and you still had marriage being protected, if you still had gender roles within the home and traditional masculinity was respected and traditional femininity was passed down, there's no Red Pill, right? There's no need for Red Pill because society's on game, right? Like, everybody knows how it works and things are as they should be. So the changes that took place from the 60s onwards, and definitely the push towards feminist ideas in the mainstream, big part of what's produced Red Pill thinking. Definitely, I agree with that. And yeah, I think to a certain extent, you have a point when you say that, a lot of Red Pill conversations are about women, like you said, either healing from women or, waking up to the true nature of women, or how to get women, depending on where you are on the spectrum. But to say that, again, it goes back to this idealized version of, we just need to get Islam and everything will be okay. Because if you, Rami, you become grounded in your Islamic masculinity, you still are operating within a context, and that context is a gynocentric Western context. So while I agree with you that what we need to be doing is teaching our sons and daughters the correct model of female, what it is to be a Muslim woman and what it is to be a Muslim man, there will still be utility in these lenses because the situation is still as it is, and it's probably not going to change for some time, unless things are all, the pendulum always swings, doesn't it? So right now it's swinging towards sort of red pill, and more men speaking and more women also saying, no, we want traditional men, we want to go back to traditional roles. So this society is always doing that. So Yani, Rami, if you stay firm on your thing, and anybody else who's watching who stays firm on, I know who I am as a Muslim man, I know the type of woman that I want to build with, because I know what life I want for myself, then inshallah you will be okay. But all the guys out here and all the girls out here who don't have that grounding, they're going to be dealing with all these issues. And what I'm seeing is, how the Prophet ﷺ said that, we will follow the disbelievers like into like a lizard hole. And when I see the TikToks that sisters are making, I think you guys have reacted to some. I see them popping up here and there. Yani, there has to be a conversation. There has to be a conversation. The mainstream is not going to have the conversation because the mainstream is in love with women. Women can do no wrong. Women are the perfectly evolved human being. Men are only imperfect because they are so different from women, right? And women are black girl magic and, boss babes and all of this type of thing, right? So women are always pedestalized by the culture. So they're not going to start having difficult conversations because why should they? They stand to lose if they have those conversations. So it really is only men who can start saying, hold on a minute, wait. You think that you're going to have your, little phase and do your riding on carousels and have everything your way and, and have all the men falling at your feet for as long as you want. And then one day a man is going to wife you and you're going to play the good wife and all that kind of thing. Well, actually, no. It's only men that will be able to kind of call time on this whole game and say, we're not playing anymore. But to that point, I want to ask you guys about MGTOW, because I received some messages from a young brother, clearly black pilled, okay? And I think how MGTOW boys get down, like when they bring their statistics and the videos and the thing. And he was saying how, as a short, ethnic, ugly, uneducated, broke man, he's basically an endangered species. And because of women's hypergamy and this eugenics, there's nothing for us. Like, it's basically, I'm done, And I was trying to advise him and said, like, this is really toxic. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you filling your head with? But I mean, have you guys come across any black pill dudes? And like, what do you see going on?
Yeah, the black pill stuff and the MGTOW stuff, that's a cancer.
That's weird, bro. They use dolls, like a lot of them, because they're like, oh, screw female nature. So it just makes no sense to me.
Yo, so a quick story. Right, before I got into Islam, I was getting into the red pill. I was waking up because I was engaged. That didn't go as planned, and then I was like, I was really hurt by it. So then I started coming onto the red pill, as most dudes do. Yeah. And then like this one dude, he started talking about MGTOW, and I was like, men going their own way. Like, this sounds interesting. Like, I should be focusing on myself. I should be the one enjoying the fruits of my labor versus just giving it all away to a woman. And then like I started, watching some of this guy's videos. And like the further I got in, I was like, yo, this is twisted. Like, there's something going on here, because this man was saying, no, we don't need women. We're going on, we're doing our own thing. We're living our life the way we want to live. We don't have to have someone nagging us constantly. We don't have to provide. We don't have to do all of this. We don't have to give our emotional attention, none of this stuff to a woman. But then he over here has a sex doll, astaghfirullah, and he's watching pornography, astaghfirullah. I'm like, yo, how are you going to talk about women like this? But then you're doing this on the side.
So
Like,
is that the
voila.
manhaj? Is that kind of how it goes? It's basically men go your own way. Don't deal with real women. Just deal with fake women
I think
if
that's
you
where it
need to
leads.
for your needs.
I think that's where it leads, honestly. And just think about it. Think about this brother that was telling you all this stuff, saying that, oh man, may Allah make it easy for him, but that he's an endangered species.
Let me add something to what Sister Naima said earlier.
Go
I'm
ahead.
beginning to see her point. It's almost like if we believe as Muslims that Islamic financial system, the Islamic economic system, is the right way to go, and this kuffar, I guess, riba filled society for finance, it's not the way to go. We agree on that unanimously. However, by and large, every single Islamic scholar in finance, specializing in finance, knows exactly how the kuffar financial system works, and they've studied it extensively, and they know the ins and outs. They know what's riba, they know what stocks are halal, they know what cryptocurrency coins are halal. And it's almost like they understand that. They don't do it, they refrain from it, but they understand and they use it as a tool to navigate through living in this Western society. And I think that goes concordant with what Sister Naima was saying, that if we learn red pill, it helps us navigate in today's society. We can still be Muslim without giving up our identity.
She was asking about the black pill, though.
Yeah, I had to tie that up to what was said before.
I got you.
May I just say something? I'm not advocating learning red pill. I'm not advocating that because it's a rabbit hole, right? Like most things on the internet, it's a rabbit hole. You go in that space, oh, you're gonna get lost in the source. So any young Muslim guy who's coming up, I wouldn't say to him, yeah, start watching so and so, yeah, you need to learn this red pill stuff. I think it's more. I'm grateful for the people of knowledge who are engaging with red pill ideas and clarifying for the people. This is in line with the deen. We don't have any problem with that. In fact, the deen came with it first. Yeah, that we own that stuff. We cool. This stuff here is toxic, it's dangerous, it's haram, it's whatever it is. And clarifying for people so that they themselves can see this makes sense to me on a rational level. This is something that I have seen with my own eyes, and it does not contradict the deen. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? Whereas, if we just say, no, red pill, haram, you're leaving guys basically unarmed in the battlefield. You know what I mean? Because what you're doing, if you say no red pill, you don't need red pill, all you need is Islam, the reality is most of us are blue pill conditioned. We've been conditioned already by our environment to believe in the one, to believe in the perfect love story, to pedestalize our women. All the stories, all the things that we saw in Hollywood films, that the guy who wins is the one who keeps chasing. Yeah. The one who keeps doing things to basically earn her love. We've already learned those lessons. That's in us. So the deen is not really going to tell you Disney is not true. Okay, we know that. Disney is nonsense. Hollywood's nonsense, but it's in us, right? So I'm not here to make a case for red pill, but I do, as I've said before, I speak to my sons and my daughters, and I tell them certain things. It's red pill thinking, but do I say you need to be red pilled? No, I don't. But I tell them certain things that are realities that we know doesn't go against the deen. And you need to know this if you want to be successful in your relationships, because if you follow what society's telling you as a man, you're going to be a simp, you're going to be a loser, you're going to have a wife who doesn't appreciate you, and you don't know how to handle this relationship. That's what I'm saying.
This is where I go back. My bad, bro. This is where I go back to where it's like red pill has to be this add-on in this integrated society. If we weren't integrated, there's no need for it. Because I'll elaborate with my own, experience, and I'll keep it very simple, very short. But the things that I learned coming onto red pill, like the biggest things that made the biggest impact, I could have learned in Islam. You know what I'm saying? If that was like the main program. But for me at the time, I didn't know Islam. So all I knew was the red pill. And when I came onto the red pill, I actually think it did more damage than it did good. And the reason I say that is because, like you said, there's a spectrum in the red pill. You got some dudes who are advocating, like, go out here and have sex with as many women as you can, get the highest body count ever, increase finances. Then you got the other ones over here who are saying, no, don't even worry. Like, listen, we don't even want to come close to women. but it's all right. We're gonna have the sex dolls and we're gonna watch pornography and all that. So there's a spectrum. And for me, like I fell into the spectrum of like, okay, I'm gonna increase my body count. I'm gonna go out here and try to be with as many women as possible. I'm gonna change the way that I interact with women. I'm gonna do all this stuff. But it's like when I started looking back at all the interactions I had with women after I came onto the red pill, it was of the just pure lust type nature.
Wow.
Where it's like before I had connection with women, but it's like there were certain things that I had to heal from myself in order to have the relationship be something better. But like the interaction, the connection, everything was more real before the red pill. And it's crazy because the red pill is supposed to wake you up and you're supposed to come to the real thing. It's like, I get it, you know, there is female nature, but at the same time, like, if you come to a woman and you treat her in a certain way and you hold a certain frame, the result will be a certain thing. The result will be that lust driven type outcome versus like we all have the lust, but if you can interact and you can interact in a way where you don't have your insecurities controlling you from behind the scenes, making you act in a certain way, maybe trying to please the woman, maybe trying to I don't know, just be needy and have too much
Get
attention. Like, these are
validation.
things exactly like if the man takes care of this, well, then it's almost like it works itself out. You know what I'm saying? And when you get into Islam and you get into sujood and you're praying and you're doing dhikr and all this stuff, like Allah is healing you from the inside out. Allah is allowing you to become aware of these things, and that's if you're doing it, you know, like really in tune. Because there are a lot of people that do it and you know they don't really experience anything from it.
Barakallahu feek. No, mashallah. That's solid. That's solid.
I like the fact that a lot of people recently have been saying that. Yeah, go for it.
I need to just turn off the
Oh,
stove. Hold on
I
a
thought
second, please.
you were doing no, go ahead.
Like wait, let me speak.
Yeah, I thought she was doing charades. Like, oh, one thing, 2 words. I was like, oh, okay, we're doing it.
All right. So the Quran is a book of guidance, hidayah. I understand that. Islam is a religion of guiding people to the truth. It is a complete deen. However, Islam's not going to teach you, for example, how to, I don't know, do this in this scenario or do that in this scenario. It'll have generalities, it'll have principles, but it doesn't have every single application that you need. Sister, can you hear us? Yeah, I was saying that Islam is a religion of guidance, but it's not going to have every single application in a modern day lens that we might require. And a lot of the time, people, at least the youth nowadays, young men, they can relate to red pill because it gives modern day specific examples where they might look at Islam and be like, oh, this looks like just generic principles. You get what I mean? And I feel like that's why a lot of men fall into the trap of just taking red pill as God.
Yeah,
I think I agree with you, and I also think it would be unfair for me as a woman, you know, who's kind of not in this source, to discount Anghels' experience and for us to assume that Muslim boys who come into red pill will not develop certain ideas about women that are not helpful, right? And that, like what Anghel said, sort of make you see them in a particular way, right? And make you behave in a particular way with them as well. And I think there are lots of issues with some red pill ideas. I think for me as a woman, what I find the most disturbing, because I can stand something and like clearly say, look, I don't agree with that and I don't like this or whatever. But so I understand where red pill's coming from. I think a lot of it makes a lot of sense. But I think one of the most dangerous or pernicious aspects of it is this painting of women as a species in a way that makes them fundamentally untrustworthy. Now, I don't marry women, yeah? So I could be completely wrong, right? I could be proven wrong 100 times over. But it seems to me that if a person is going to say, as a general rule, women are not to be trusted. Women say one thing, they mean something else. Women don't know their own minds. Women say they want one thing, but actually what really works is this. And a woman will never love you. Like, you will never have a woman's love, like, because she doesn't operate like that. She doesn't operate like us men. We men, when we love, we go all in, we're committed, we stay faithful. Women are always looking out for their self-interest. Women are controlled by their hypergamous nature. That type of thing for me is problematic. And I don't know, I like to think that there are women who are self-aware and honest, and who have tamed their own desires. Look at the deen, right? When we embrace the deen, we don't just operate on the basis of our desires. We don't even necessarily operate just on the basis of our nature. We operate on a basis of what will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with and what will he not, right? What will bring me closer to him and what will take me away from him? So even if it's in my nature to be argumentative, for example, one likes to think that a believing woman understands that even though it's your nature to be argumentative, it's not right to be argumentative within your marriage, right? You understand, like, things like that that set this kind of two-dimensional image of a woman in your head, and now you just see every woman like that. For me, that's the type of thing that I would not want my sons to kind of take hold of, because I think it makes you jaded. I think it makes you jaded, makes you cynical. Some might say it keeps you protected at least, but I feel that that's a shame, because now you can never truly be open within your relationship, because you never truly trust your wife, because at the end of the day, she's a woman and women do X, Y, Z. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that's where, again, Islam has to be the main program here. Because Islam teaches us that the dunya is temporary. Right? That we shouldn't be submitting to anything or anyone in this dunya, only to the Creator, and that we should be giving most of our time to the Creator. We should have taqwa. What is taqwa? It's remembrance of Allah. Right? If you don't have taqwa, what do you have? You have remembrance of something else. And a lot of times people get into these relationships and it's not love, it's an obsession that they have, because they can only think about this other person. Now, Allah said very clearly in the Quran that he made us so we have passion between each other. Listen, passion and love are very closely linked. You know, like, you start making passion with someone, feelings develop over time. So if that's not love, then what is? You know, so people might say, oh, well, this is love, this is love. Listen, no one knows what love is actually. It's just the state that we feel. So it's like, for someone to say, well, women are untrustworthy, women are like this, women act like this. Okay, perhaps. You know, perhaps many of these women do. But at the end of the day, like, you're not God. So stop trying to be God. Stop trying to control everything. You know, you do your best and then you let Allah do the rest. So it's like, listen, okay, maybe a woman might not be 100% trustworthy, but this is where you do your best by vetting her and seeing if you actually getting a woman that is on deep. Like you said, a woman who is very self-aware and can see, okay, I am argumentative, but in my marriage, being argumentative is not going to help. See, this, a man would vet for this. Now, even if he vetted and even if he saw it for what it was, and he's like, okay, she's very self-aware, and then he chooses to trust her, she can still break that trust because she is imperfect, just like he is imperfect.
Exactly, and vice versa. Exactly.
You know, so all it is like, we're just playing our part in this dunya. We do our best in this dunya, but we have to remember, like, this is temporary. This is so temporary.
MashaAllah.
100%.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, because it's very, subhanAllah, it's very holistic, right? It gives a very holistic approach. Whereas usually if anything that's un-Islamic, to be honest, is just going to be one-dimensional, to be honest. Like red pill feminism is very one-dimensional, because it's literally just about not just the dunya, but this current state of the dunya. This
aspect of the dunya.
Exactly. And subhanAllah, a few things I want to add is, actually, I think I agree very much with Anghel, with what he said, and I might end up kind of overlapping things he said. But firstly, I want to comment on the whole like, you know, Islam doesn't tell you, like what Fard was saying, Islam doesn't tell you specifically how to do things. So it's not the case that Islam always specifically tells you how to do things. Sometimes it does, right? For example, if your wife is basically misbehaving, not listening, Islam tells you exactly what
There's
to do.
etiquette. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
etiquettes.
Yeah, exactly. SubhanAllah, and that's a beautiful thing. But it won't tell you, for example, you know, when you're driving a car, you know, 10 and 2, and it won't say that. But Islam gives you a scope. Islam gives you what a scope of permissibility. What can you do? What can't you do? Am I allowed to, you know, cheat on my wife as a punishment for her? No, astaghfirullah al-azim. And now it's very, very punishable. If there's enough witnesses by death and by Islamic law, may Allah protect us. So
I mean,
Islam gives you a scope of what you can and can't do. And I think the main problem with the whole discussion of Islam and red pill and all of that is, you know, a lot of the things that's been said about it is it really depends on your view of Islam. And I think Islam, we just made a video talking about how people in Mushayikh, when they give lectures about the afterlife, they mainly talk about Jannah. That's a very liberal thing, only talking about things that make you feel good. People need to hear about hell. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it. We need to be warned about it, not just reminded that, oh, there's Jannah. We need to know about hell as well. So I feel like a lot of the time, the Mushayikh, unfortunately, even the really mainstream ones, they give a very watered down and blue pill version of Islam. And they don't talk about, listen, capitalism is kufr. It is bare bones kufr. People think there's two ideologies, capitalism, socialism. There's three. The third one is Islam, and Islam is perfect. If we lived in a proper Islamic, it would basically be a utopia, basically, with some uncertainty and human error. But other than that, it would basically be a utopia. There wouldn't be extreme income tax and all these societal diseases that we see. And when you talk about Islam from that perspective, it's like, wow, I want to learn that. I want to be that. I want to incorporate that in my life. But when people don't talk about it like that, they talk about it like pray and fast and give charity and then sit and read Quran. It's very sad, to be honest. There's not much room for masculinity in something like that. So there's this false dichotomy that kind of is presented to us. But when you teach Islam from a proper perspective, then you get the full holistic picture that Anghel was just talking about, mashallah. And lastly, I want to say there's, for example, when it comes to red pill and teaching, you know, your friends, your family, yourself, your kids, the young men, things within red pill, I think there's a difference between teaching, like using the arguments that red pill uses from an Islamic perspective and crediting Islam for that because it is an Islamic thing, versus giving it from red pill perspective and then crediting red pill. Because now when people have issues as young men, what do? They look for red pill YouTubers, essentially. They read red pill and they go to non-Muslims to how to be a man. And that's why at the beginning I said, khalas, cut all of that nonsensical stuff out. It may be helpful. Do it from an Islamic perspective, because Islam will give you that window of permissibility for you to even know what you can and can't take. And I think, Sister Naima, this is something you said before, that we need men to be able to say this in red pill is allowed, this in red pill is not allowed, because it is out there and it is a thing and it is big. But I think it is actually, I know it starts with Islam, and if it doesn't, I think that would be an individual's problem with Islam. Because if you say there's anything in the world that Islam doesn't account for, then you don't believe in the ayah in the Quran where Allah says, today I've perfected your religion and completed my favor upon you. It wouldn't be a holistic religion for the rest of time if there's even an ounce of anything that Islam doesn't cover. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's crazy, because y'all know how like impactful it was.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're watching this, it was such a strong dream that I woke up and then I was talking to my dad and I was crying because of how strong the dream was, how impactful the dream was. And then I ended up driving to the mosque. It was like 5:40 something to do Fajr at the mosque. And I was crying the entire way to the mosque. And subhanAllah, I think it's crazy that